It's Sunday, February 6, 2022. This is all about your Benjamins and your weekly mixtape and weekend review video. Hope you had a great week coming off of a 2-0 day yesterday for Roman's big basketball tournament this weekend. We're heading out here pretty soon for the next day. So riding high into this weekend. Let's get to the headlines that may or may not be impacting your financial plan and portfolio. And as you can see down below, a handful of articles. I don't think we'll spend too much time on this week, not a lot of details to go into, but a few things I want to hit on, and then a couple other kind of interesting stories. So first and foremost, we'll start off with jobs and unemployment. And in January, we added 467,000 new jobs in the month of January, which is ahead of expected. So the thoughts are that could have been a better number if it wasn't for Omicron, but nonetheless, we're having more jobs, which goes into the next piece that suggests that kind of puts the Fed in a tough spot. So if you remember, the Fed is trying to keep up with keeping inflation down, bringing it back down closer to that 2% since we've run it up to 7%, 6%, wherever it may be these days. But having a strong job market makes it a little bit harder to start raising rates and doing the things they need to do. So not going to put them in a hard spot. Everything is believed that it's going to continue to move forward with what they laid out, that they're going to plan on raising rates in next month in March. But this definitely kind of makes them have to watch things a little bit more closely. Not as easy of a decision as it may have been if the numbers had stayed weak. So at the end of the day, I don't think it's a bad problem. I think it's a good thing to see people getting back to work, getting us on the other side of hopefully COVID. I'm optimistic that we're getting to the other side of it. So that's a positive in my mind, but it's going to put the Fed in a tough spot to make sure that they raise rates and do it at the right frequency and at the right numbers when they start to increase it. So that'll be something to pay attention to, and there's a final article that talks about inflation and coming up some of the readings. So we'll get to that at the very end. But at the end of the day, the jobs report for January looked real good, but then again, that puts the decision to raise rates a little bit more, have to be a little bit more on point with that as we go forward. Speaking of rates, the ECB, the European Central Bank, they kept rates unchanged, despite where inflation is over there as well. So just want to kind of highlight what's going on across the globe. You know, I believe in being globally diversified when it comes to our portfolio. So while we focus most of our efforts here in the U.S., it makes sense to have an understanding of what's going on across the world. Everything is so interconnected that investing in just U.S. investments is still getting you global exposure. So we have to have an understanding of what's going on there, and also see if what they're doing, how that impacts things, and how that might impact and play out over here. Despite the differences amongst countries and governments and currencies and all those things, it's still a good idea of knowing what's going on over there. So they left their rates the same despite everything going on over there when it comes to inflation and getting through the effects of COVID. All right, so those are the main economic things I wanted to go into. I wanted to hit on something that I thought was interesting, not to make any stock recommendations or investment recommendations, but you'll see the article about Amazon breaking the one-day record for gain in the market. The interesting thing that came off of the back of Facebook having the worst one-day loss in the market. Now, interesting, part of it is the values. So the worst day, best day we're talking about is dollars. Percentages, it's not quite as scary. I think that when Facebook hit the worst one-day loss, it was a 20% decline after hours after they had earnings. So as you know, Facebook rebranded their company name to Meta, which is going to be the bigger company, and then you have these silos underneath it. So they had their earnings. It was not good. I obviously didn't pay attention to it to know exactly why it got slammed, but nonetheless, it was the worst one-day loss for a company. And then the next day, we have Amazon have the best one-day gain for a company. Point of bringing that up is investing doesn't always make sense. How can you have these two companies that, although they're different, they're not competing, have such wildly different swings, and still be real big companies doing lots of business? Just kind of wild. Did that money from Facebook go to Amazon? We'll never know. Can't trace the dollars, but just an interesting thing, and also points out how hard it is to sometimes do investing and pick individual stocks, which is why advisors are always more likely to recommend using a diversified portfolio, using ETFs, using low-cost mutual funds. Doesn't mean you can't pick individual stocks, but you have to be able to stomach those types of declines. Can you own an individual company, or we'll bring crypto into it, can you own a crypto asset and see it go down 20% after hours because of earnings? If you can't hold that, if you can't stomach it, then you probably should be investing in individual securities, own the broader market, own thousands of companies instead of a couple. I do think there is room for having most of your portfolio in the diversified stuff, and then picking a handful of stocks that you like to go along with it in amounts that won't blow your portfolio up. So if you did own Facebook, you're not going to be off track for retirement. You're not going to be unable to buy your house. It's a one position you hold. You understand it. Chances are you have a long-term horizon, a long-term vision for it. You're not trading it. You're holding it as an investment. So if you hold it as an investment, you can allow it to come down. If you believe in it going forward, it should recover and go forward. But I just thought it was interesting to see that dynamic of worst one day, best one day, back to back in two different companies that we all know and are familiar with. Speaking of, I mentioned crypto in there. Crypto assets can fall pretty quickly as well. There was a hack between the Ethereum and the Solana networks, which are just blockchain networks. They have their own crypto asset that goes with it. Ethereum has Ether or ETH. Solana has its Solana token. What is called a wormhole, which is moving from one of blockchain to another. So you can transact on Ethereum easily with the Ether token. It all stays on that blockchain. Solana is a different one. So if you think about, they are almost like parallel roads running alongside each other, but they're different. And you have to somehow bridge to get over. And they have these things called wormholes, which is complex, but basically allows you to move Ether to Solana, Solana to Ether. They package it up and ship it over. And in this process of wrapping it and sending it over, they were able to hack and steal $320 million in that hack. I bring it up not to scare you from paying attention to crypto, but to share the importance of understanding what exactly it is that you're doing and understand the risks associated with this new space. There are hacks and there are theft that goes on in traditional fiat currencies. There's money laundering that happens with the dollar, just as there is on the crypto side. So it's not that different. It's just that it's new, and when these things happen, it seems scarier because we don't understand. Now, the thing to be aware of is this type of hacking that happens in the coding. So you and I probably aren't sophisticated enough to know and see there's a vulnerability there. The whole point is to understand what you're doing and what the risks are. The more you go deeper down that rabbit hole, the more complex it's going, the possibility for more sophisticated hacks could go on and have a situation like this. Now, one thing that's been interesting in the crypto community is sometimes when these hacks happen, the people who pull off the hack end up returning some of what they stole. Maybe not all of it, but high percentages of it, which is very interesting. I haven't paid attention past just knowing that happened, to know it's on my radar and be able to talk about it. I don't know if they've returned any of it or not, but that's something to pay attention to as well. I would not hope on that. I would not bank on that. So the buyer beware, the investor beware is, yes, crypto is exciting. Yes, I'm a believer in it. I think that it will be here for the long term. It will be a part of more and more portfolios as we go forward, but there are risks and nuances to it, and there's different levels of complexity. What was going on here was not simply buying Bitcoin or buying Ether and holding it. It was moving it around, getting into different protocols, as they call them, and kind of shifting things around. So again, as you get further deeper, there's more potential for complexities that you may not understand and opportunity for these things to happen. If you're buying and just holding it, it's not quite the same risk that we saw with this. So just understand the risks, understand what's going on, and that's what happened if you heard about it. And finally, I teased it earlier on. The last one's from CNBC, just talking about the upcoming inflation data this week, and depending on what those numbers are, it could be recipe for volatility in the market. Which volatility in the market is normal. What we're experiencing this year is more normal than what we experienced last year. It's just not as fun. So mental preparation. If you hear these things, understand what's going on. Go back to your financial plan. Go back to your investment policy statement. Why are you investing? What are your goals? Have they changed? Do you need to make adjustments? And do you have enough liquidity, enough cash, enough short-term things to access if you need the funds in the next 6 months, year and a half? That's all part of portfolio construction. It's all part of the financial plan. It's all part of the value that advisors bring to you. So just know that if there's some volatility here, and volatility goes both ways. We think about volatility being a negative, going down. Spikes to the upsides, volatility as well. Volatility is getting away from the baseline. So the spikes that happen, they go up and down. We just really focus on the volatility to the downside because it seems scary. Media loves to hype it up, bring more attention to it. You've got the doomsdayers that come out, try to profit off of it, and it just gets really scary. Plus, we're emotionally wired, where we are hardwired to be more emotional about our money, especially when it's going down. The loss of $1 hurts more than the gain of $1. So just know that, control your emotions, talk to your advisor, revisit your plan, and you should be well positioned to ride out anything we might see this week. And since I addressed it, chances are it's just going to be a calm week. I jinxed it. So just wanted to let know that. So that was it. That's it for this week's mixtape and the weekend review video. Be sure to head down below in the mixtape. I also want to point out the the image. If you've ever, on the mixtape, you don't go and see the mixtape on All About Your Benjamins. Every week I have a money visual from my friend Ashby Daniels' company, but I also include a tweet that I really liked. And this week I have another image. It's from the Visualize Value account, which is the creation of Jack Butcher, who I'm a huge fan of. And it is a very simple image as he does, but it says, if the path before you is clear, you're probably on someone else's, from Joseph Campbell. I really love the image. I really love the thought. As you may have noticed in some of the other things that are showing up on All About Your Benjamins, this concept of blazing your own path and choosing your own direction and creating the life that you want is something that I'm very, very passionate about and excited about. So you're going to see more and more things here. So just challenging yourself to think about what it is that you're doing. What is the life that you're living? Is it the life that you want to live? Are there things you wish you'd change? Are you on your path or somebody else's path? And is that okay with you? And if not, how can you start to figure out what it is that you want? Maybe start to blaze your own path. What does that look like? And then how can you pull the financials into it to help make that happen? Or what do you need to do to make the financials get to where it needs to be? So I really love that image and I just wanted to point it out. So if you're watching this only on YouTube, head on over to All About Your Benjamins, or maybe I will put this up in the corner so you can see. I think it's what I'll do. So check it out. Check out the mixtape articles down below. And with that, I'll just let you get your day. So appreciate you tuning in, and I also want to bookend this with, I gave Roman's team a shout out. I want to give Leo's team a shout out. They're playing the same tournament and went 1-1 yesterday. So have a good run into today's games. So we'll be at the gym all day today. So think of me as if you have kids and you know what the gyms are like with athletics these days. It can get a little crazy. So with that, I'll quit rambling. Have a great day. Have a great week. We'll see you all next week. Be sure to tune in. We've got the first episode of the next episode coming out this week. And then obviously the pursuit is every Friday. So with that, have a great day. Have a great week. And we'll see you all in the next episode.